thank you, everyone. This is a full house, so very happy to repeating our sessions from last year. I'm Michel Suissa. I'm the manager of the studio division of B&H. We do things a little differently than the rest of the company. We're involved in larger projects, projects that require technology solutions, not just equipment purchasing and sales. So we've decided 3 years ago to get into the virtual production space. It felt like it was a natural progression for us to make sure our customers, whether they were corporate, digital cinema, production, post, and any market vertical, we decided to have solutions for them. So as part of that, we've developed a great network of friends, vendors, clients, and now I have a few of them here. Last year, we decided to provide a little bit of technology overview of what virtual production is. This year, we're going to focus on the people behind virtual production. So that's really an emphasis that I think throughout the event this year we decided to put together, is put forth a little bit of the people who actually create the content or who produce the content that comes into virtual production. So I have 3 friends, a circle of friends, friends only, allowed here. So actually, this is my wrong sheet. So here we go. See how prepared I am. So I don't have the right sheet. So we're going to wing it. Yes. So here's Justin. Justin is a great client of ours, and we started working together relatively recently. And his background can help us understand how to produce virtual production in time, on budget, and make sure that we understand the parameters that make virtual production suitable for a certain type of project. So Eli is my good friend from disguise. We've worked together a number of times. We'll continue to do so. Eli is a technology specialist, but his emphasis is really in helping customers deploy the solutions for their environment, making sure that it fits the nature of their project. And Noah does so many things, I can't even mention them, but most of all, he is an evangelist for virtual production, and we like that. So we love to have someone who can actually speak the regular language to people who do not necessarily have the knowledge to understand virtual production, and he explains it so well that it transcribes, directly into information that is valuable. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves a little bit to see, what path they took to become part of the virtual production world. So Justin, we'll talk to you.
Great, thank you. My name is Justin Diener. I'm the CEO of Synapse Virtual Production. Before I co-founded the company, I worked as a line producer and an executive producer in film and television, commercials, advertising, music videos, events. For those of you that may not be familiar with what a line producer does, they are the ones that put together the budget, the schedule. They're managing all the different departments. Essentially, they're managing the project as a whole. And it was through my years of experience as a line producer that I instantly understood the capabilities of virtual production. And the minute that I was introduced to it, in the version that we know of it today with the LED walls and the tracking and all the other convergence of technology that creates it, it was a no-brainer. We started Synapse Virtual Production with several partners, and our goal has really been to create an ecosystem and not just disparate versions of how you can utilize the technology. What I mean by that is we've really bundled all of the aspects of production into virtual production. Studios, builds, VAD, consulting, service, to allow our audience, our partners, and our clients to have a more streamlined approach to what their experience can be.
Eli?
Nice. I'm Eli Stacy. I'm the Solution Design Manager at Disguise. So I currently work on designing and specifying stages for all types of virtual productions and other types of large-scale video venues. My background is actually in broadcast. I was doing a lot of video switching. I worked for a number of manufacturers in slow motion instant replay, as well as new tech for, again, like video switching and live video transmission. And yeah, it took the pandemic to switch over to something I think that was very exciting for everyone. And yeah, I've been with the company for a bit over 4 years now. A little bit about where we came from as a company as well. Disguise has been around for 20 years, and we had been doing a lot of concert touring, live events, that type of thing, and we were already integrating a lot of individual components, like some real-time rendering with like Notch or Touch Designer, if you guys are using that, camera tracking. And then we said, well, what if we just put all these things together? And that was around 2018, and you guys are all here now, so you kind of see where that whole trajectory as an industry took us.
Noah?
I am Noah Kadner. My sort of day job is the virtual production editor at American Cinematographer magazine. And before that, I was a staff writer for a number of years. And so I've had the opportunity to kind of speak to a lot of leading cinematographers, directors. Like I got to chat with like James Cameron for 90 minutes, which is basically I asked a question at minute 1 and he talked for the next 89 minutes, which was awesome. He answered every possible thought I might have ever had, so it was great. And yeah, if you ever see me on LinkedIn, I am kind of a dabbler, an experimenter, researcher, and all this stuff. I happen to have the extreme luck and luxury of having a modest but powerful virtual production wall in my living room that was constructed during the pandemic by my lovely wife, who's in the back, Monica. Did a great job. And so yeah, I am forever learning how these things evolve, and they are in constant evolution. Now that we have AI in the mix too, it's just added a whole new twist. And so it's just a fascinating journey, and it's been a blast so far.
All right, so we'll get back to AI because it's clearly unavoidable.
Exactly.
But the first thing that's really important, I think, is with your progression into the world of virtual production, how do you approach a typical project? And what comes first? And is the pre-production levels or procedures, are they different than traditional production? Do you see a different way to budget, to schedule? What comes first? Do you schedule your budget? Do you hire your crew? What comes first, compared to a traditional production where you would say, I'm going to scout my location first, and then I'm going to go and talk to my DP, and then I'm going to go and DP is going to hire the crew, and then we're going to do lighting package, camera package, and this and this and that, and we go on location, we start shooting. So how different is it for you guys when you're on set? It's a set, right? When you're on set and you decide that we have to bring this on time and in budget, and a lot of what we talked about virtual production is the fact that it is economically an interesting paradigm to make sure that people can create what they need to create, maybe at a more affordable level of budgeting.
Yeah. There's a lot of different aspects of that question to unpack. I would say at its core, the beautiful thing about virtual production is its production. Most of the time, most of the aspects of production continue to exist in virtual production. Really, you're adding a couple departments. You're adding the studio, which is LED wall, and other things come with that. You're replacing potentially some traditional location work with location acquisition or creation of it in real-time engines to put it on the wall. But you still have a camera department, grip, electric, art department, construction, you name it. The call sheet is relatively the same as far as the departments. You're adding some things onto it. It's going to vary how that looks project to project, but that's one of the things that reasons why I and our group gravitated to it the way that we did. As far as the process, it can change a little. There's tools built into certain aspects of virtual production which are extremely valuable to the creative and the production team. You're now able to go through the development process in the engine itself. So by utilizing Unreal Engine, instead of doing hand-drawn storyboards that go to 3 different departments, construction is doing a CAD, and art is doing a render, and lighting is doing their own design, everybody can work in this centralized platform of Unreal so that the iterative process continues to build effectively towards what you're going to experience on the day. It understands the real world. You're able to place the lights. You're able to see what it's going to look like. You have actual virtual cameras that represent the talent and the lensing to it. This is a monumental advancement in what has been in the past a laborious and longer process. So that's one of the things that we don't see a lot of people talking about nearly as much as they should as a major value add to going down this route.
Eli?
Yeah. I mean, I think just adding on top of that, I feel like, we're going to talk a lot about, some of the advantages here, but it is a lot of the same staff, but it's also, a new technology, for a lot of different departments. It does impact all of those different departments. And I think, the importance of having like a virtual production supervisor to be able to coordinate that between the teams is a new role that exists. But, like another aspect to this, and more on the side that I work on, which is I'm specifying these stages for potentially, corporate entities, that are not necessarily going to third-party studios. It's not necessarily a studio, like Warner Brothers hiring out another studio to do the production. It all has to happen in-house. And so you're talking about taking your existing video department and transitioning it into doing this much more high, tech role. And I think exactly what you said, it's a lot of the same roles. A lot of the jobs are just going to be slightly different. Mm-hmm. And, just being able to go all in and being able to know that you can upskill and train a lot of the staff that you already have is important, but definitely having some sort of, as I said, virtual production supervisor or some owner of the technology to be able to say, okay, this is going to work and this isn't going to work. We'll obviously talk about that more, and I think knowing when to say no is really going to be key to, saving money on these productions.
Noah, a little variation of the question for you, since you actually write about the projects that are being done, on LE volumes, but you also have just your own studio. Not only that, but you part of production of certain shows where you're actively involved, into the cycle of production for a certain project or show or whichever. Learning from other people whose job it is to put together these productions and working on your own, what have you taken out of these two experiences to say, oh, and now I can know how to better produce my jobs because I learned from others, and now I can actually apply to my own project?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And yeah, what Justin and Eli said so far is definitely right on. I agree with all that. I would say where I've seen success and where I've seen crash and burn is really comes down to the quality of the content that's being developed that ends up on the wall, because most people are used to a production workflow mentality where it kind of begins with a very small development team and it kind of grows and grows and grows, and then there's production, and then really the bulk of the work happens during post-production where there's a lot of cleanup, fix it in post, green screens are being composited into final shots. Whereas with virtual production, it's all got to be there on the shoot day. And film crews are really great at making work what's in front of them, but if you don't start with something that really looks great, and by great I mean if it looks like CG when you're playing with it, it's not going to look any better on camera. So it really needs to look like as good as the best looking CG or just realistic as possible. And if you have that, you're going to have a great shoot day. And if you don't, you're going to be pulling teeth and you're going to be doing more fixes. And I have heard of many productions that ended up doing the work twice because they didn't go by that. So if there's one thing I can impart, it's show up with finished looking content before you shoot, because it's all going to be there in front of the camera.
So, Justin, do you build that into your production process to make sure that the content that actually is going to be projected on the wall is really up to the nature of the final product that needs to be seen by everyone? How much does that impact your budgeting to make sure that you have more time in pre-production, for creating all the content that needs to go in before you start shooting, as opposed to more traditional methods where you could say, okay, I'm going to wing it. We're going to shoot 5 versions of the same thing on green screen or blue screen, and then we'll figure it out in post. How much is this paradigm change for you to say, I have more work upstream before I start shooting?
If you're talking about replacing a green screen and a blue screen shoot with a virtual production shoot, you are saving a significant amount of money not going through the post-production process. So instead of crews or teams of dozens or hundreds of visual effects artists that are going through the process of rotoscoping, tracking, 3D building, texturing, lighting, compositing, cleanup, so on and so forth, the hundreds of names that you see in the crawl at the end of a movie, that is now going on the front end of the process, but it's with a much different team, a much smaller team. And so instead of it taking 3 or 4 months to finish, you may only need to add 4 weeks or 6 weeks to the front end with a fraction of those people. You're saving time, you're saving budget, and I want to be really clear in saying that this isn't an umbrella statement that virtual production saves time, saves money on every single project. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that compared to if you replace every virtual production shot with what would have been a green screen or blue screen shot, it's a fundamental difference. And the other benefit to it is there's limitations that you face with green screen and blue screen. Same way that Noah was outlining what you go through in post-production, that's pinned to certain requirements. Locking off a camera, having lighting from a certain direction. There's plenty of examples of it. And again, with bringing virtual production into it, you're now giving the creative freedom. You say, this is your sandbox. You can point the camera any direction. This scene was scheduled to have 10 visual effects shots. Make it 50, make it 100, it doesn't matter because all those things I rattled off, roto, tracking, blah, 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 they no longer apply because it's all in-camera visual effects. But it doesn't matter if the content doesn't look good. And that's what is the responsibility of all of us in the industry right now, especially as it continues to evolve, is to ensure the quality of that work is up to par.
Eli, a little bit of a variation on that question. When you work when you spec out projects or installations, for not necessarily TV or film content, but for corporate and enterprise content, do you see a different approach from the people that you actually work with that are saying to you, we're not Hollywood, we're not broadcast, we need to do things differently, how do we approach this and this and that to make sure that in the end, my CEO is going to look fantastic in front of whichever background he wants to look in front of, and then it's get disseminated to all the executive in the company, and then it has high production value.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is really hitting on a very important point of, kind of the differences that we're using the same technology in these, corporate or film settings, but, ask any one of these people, if you're having your CEO in front of these screens, you're not doing 4 weeks, 6 weeks of, building a whole Unreal scene for pre-production. I mean, a lot of these turnarounds are so much faster, and you just don't have time to rely on that as much as you want to get, those types of environments there, for sure. So I think we're seeing a lot of reliance on video playback, so both using 360 videos, driving plates if it's applicable, capturing, I was thinking about this the other day where it's just like, okay, if we're talking about, filming something in the Himalayas, sometimes it will be cheaper to send someone on a plane with cameras to the Himalayas than it would be to spend multiple weeks developing, an Unreal scene that, yes, it'll have more customizability on site, but may not visually look the same given the amount of time and budget. And so it's like those types of questions where it's like, okay, how do I make, my money and my time go as far as possible? And so I think also because of the relative complexity of Unreal versus video, yeah, we see a lot more video being used. And, whether there is, AI elements into that, whether you're using layer separation to do 2.5D, getting parallax with video elements, it's a very interesting space where, a lot of these times they don't have the pre-production timelines that film does. And it's just a different challenge of that industry.
Noah, in your experience, do you approach a virtual production project from the standpoint of budgeting, and schedule and everything else? do you apply your knowledge of technology to decide which tools you actually want to use for a specific project, or does the creative and the budgeting and the scheduling really takes precedent, and the technology matters less as long as content is at the level that it needs to be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most important thing is to kind of work back from what the end product really needs to do. Like, what does it need to look like? What is the audience? Is it a feature film that has to look as good as a Marvel movie, whatever? Is it corporate communications where camera movement is less important, that the person who's speaking is comfortable and the message gets across clearly? And kind of, backing your way out of that. I mean, generally speaking, once you're on the stage, it's like the costs are pretty similar, whether the content is super high-end or not. But having that sort of foreknowledge of what it really needs to look like and getting everybody who's going to work with the finished footage to understand what it's going to look like. And that's why, I agree, video plates are oftentimes a good shortcut because, they just automatically look photographic through a camera because they are photographs or video being rephotographed. And so that can be a good way to kind of set expectations without saying, and now we got to spend 3 weeks and, develop this amazing 3D imagery that we may not have the capability or the budget to do. So those are the big considerations. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, I think I really can't hone in the point, really know what your end goal is going to be, because you can go as deep down the rabbit hole of content and pre-production, but at what point is it really diminishing returns? So I think, focusing on the end goal, and, there are a lot of tools out there. It's not just Unreal Engine or even video, for example. There's a lot of in-betweens and kind of other solutions out there.
So given that there's still a little bit of the mystery of virtual production being able to do anything and everything, are there any circumstances which, as you said, is not the case? Do you find yourselves having to educate your clients or your internal management team to understand what the reality of putting together a virtual production project is? Just like you said, or Eli said, the point of diminishing return. Do you explain that? Or someone says, oh, I want Unreal because that's what I heard, and Unreal it's got to be, when in fact, it's so far down in the distance that there's not going to be any parallax, and you can actually do with 2D. Do you have to still engage into a level of education with your clients to manage, the parameters of the budget and the schedule?
Yes, absolutely. It's everything that these guys have been saying is absolutely right. Really understanding the end goal and the why behind it, because there aren't a tremendous amount of experts in the field right now. Studios have departments that are more focused on this, but aside from major blockbuster budgets, the majority of the content that's being produced, this technology is pretty new to people. And so really understanding what their goals are, their objectives, why they're considering it, shooting it in a certain way, offering suggestions on how to be able to achieve that, even if maybe it's a different version of what they thought it might be. And sometimes outright just saying, listen, I don't think virtual production is the right tool for you to be able to do what it is that you're trying to do. Again, that's all of our responsibility, being where we are in the industry, and for everybody that is able to speak in an educated way, to pass that along to everybody that's approaching it, to ensure that we're getting the best outcome with every project that makes its way through.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that for a sec, I've had my hands on this technology in one way or another for 5 years, and every project I ever take on, I still am learning something. I didn't think we could do it that way. That's fascinating. Or, oh wow, we could put the screen to the side and then the camera's over here. If you treat it as the evolving bespoke process that it is, which if you ask any Hollywood studio, even if they're not talking about virtual production, they will tell you every film has a completely unique, bespoke, whatever kind of workflow that functions just for that film, but isn't necessarily cannibalizable to anything else. So, knowing that going in and having that understanding that there are variables that you can definitely lock down and guarantee a reasonable level of success, but that it is a learning process and there's fascinating things to be mined out of it, you'll have a better experience.
Okay, so the process, that's the key word, right? How does the introduction of Gen AI or any AI process that facilitates production in one way or another will impact the way you think, of putting together budgeting, scheduling, finishing on time and successfully on a virtual production project. Have you already started to integrate AI into your workflows with the intention to reduce production costs and increase productivity and efficiency?
I'll just start on that side because I'm less on the studio aspect of it. I think one of the biggest areas that I've seen it used is in allowing non-technical people to show what they want the end vision to be. If they're told that the virtual production stage can open up all these different opportunities, their mind goes to a lot of different places, and maybe it's paralysis by choice, but it's also if they use it and they can say, okay, I want my end result to look like this, that gives your virtual art department like an end goal. It's like, okay, well, we can aim for that for sure. So I think that helps speed up the creative communication process and getting inspiration, through to the people actually making it much faster. And then the other aspect is, some background generation. We've seen companies like Kubrick, developing tools for AI image generation, layer separation, infill, and then making that into 3D assets all in a web browser. Yeah, we're probably not going to see that on a feature film anytime soon, but the fact that I can get a virtual environment from someone that is non-creative, non-technical up on the wall in 15 minutes, like that is a huge breakthrough.
Justin, how invested are you in AI at Synapse?
We're very invested in it. Our focus right now is really nerfs and splats. That's going to be a game changer for the fidelity of where the backgrounds are going. Back to Noah's point about having really compelling images on the screen is critical. And one of the battles that we faced within the industry is the controllability of Unreal Engine that doesn't get a total photoreal likeness without using a few tricks. And having photo plates, which are photoreal because they're captured from the real world, but you can't control them. What you see is what you get. It's baked in. And if you want to change it, you're going back to visual effects. What we're seeing with AI is a world where we're going to be able to marry the fidelity of real-world plates and the controllability of 3D real-time environments. And that's an absolute game changer.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think, nerfs, Gaussian splat, even photogrammetry is really something to be looking at if you're looking at a stage.
Okay, before I open up to questions, who knows what a Gaussian splat is and who doesn't?
I don't know.
Okay, so who wants to jump into an explanation?
I'll take that. So really what a Gaussian splat is sort of like, when you take photographs of an object from many perspectives, you can tell the computer to essentially turn that into a 3D object, photogrammetry. And it looks photorealistic because it is composed of photographic reference. What a Gaussian splat does is sort of that on steroids and create an environment that is as navigatable as any 3D environment you would build, but again, based on photographic reference, with, depending on the technique, a little bit of AI sprinkled into it to kind of coalesce all those images into something that appears to be a 3D object. Right now, that technology is still cutting edge to the point where it takes a lot of extra work to massage it into something that really looks truly as good as 3D or photogrammetry on screen. But I think once the processes that are in progress today are brought to their logical conclusions, we will be in a world where you can walk into a completely blank LED stage and just start talking to the screen, describing the environment you want to see, and it will slowly be Gen AIing a Gaussian splat before your eyes to the point where you have a completely photorealistic 3D environment that you can navigate in any way, that you can light any way you want, you can add elements into and out of. And I think when that happens, what we're able to do in virtual production today with a lot of extra effort will become something that's just like, forget about pre-production. Yeah, just show up with your idea and we'll just work it out right in front of the screen while the crew's sitting there. That is not far away. I could absolutely see that within the next year or two. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, 50 seconds for questions.
Maybe 3, yeah.
Who has a question?
My question actually is for Noah.
Great.
Editor, virtual production editor. Okay, is the editor involved from the very beginning? Because it sure sounds like the vision, the purpose, the message is all there. Or what does a virtual production editor do?
This is editor in the print kind of sense. So it's more like if there's anything that has virtual production in the story, I typically get to at least have a say on it. Exactly.
That's right. Sure. The same way that you would use an editor with traditional workflows, previs, rips, reference cuts, things of that nature.
So same number of people, same post-production. That editing is a post-production process.
Editing's a post-production process. Depending on what your workflow is, maybe there aren't visual effects editors because you're not needing to drop in visual effects shots. Those have been replaced with in-camera visual effects shots. So that might change that slightly.
The editing process still happens after a virtual production shoot. So that's all the time we have. Let's give it up for our guests. Thank you very much.